when you look throughout this country, you look at our homeless veterans. Never in the history of the United States have we had homeless veterans show up on the streets like the Vietnam veterans till 2 or 3 years after war has ended. Well, I'd like to share a story with you. I run a homeless shelter, which I'm not going to mention in my speech. As I say, I'm here speaking for myself. But to see Afghanistan and Iraqi veterans show up at my door with families, not single veterans, mind you, but families, looking for food for Thanksgiving Day, looking for presents and food on Christmas Day, and tell me we don't have a problem, that we have forgotten our veterans in this country? We have forgotten our veterans in this country. The way that both parties, and I again am not here to support either party, Democrat, Republican, Independent, Green Party, I don't care who you are. This is not a political issue. This is a moral and humane issue of obligation owed by every single American that has had the freedom, the right, and the freedom to walk this God's green earth because of what veterans have done. How dare any party try and wrap themselves around our title of veteran? We are the only ones. We. And those standing out here, I'd like to have those in this audience, which I apologize for. Raise your hand if you're a veteran in this crowd. God bless you and thank you for your service and welcome home, in case you weren't told that. When it gets down to in this war, and what those of us who have had the honor and the privilege to fight in combat know, that when you leave in combat, there's a line called the line of departure. When you cross across that line, you have your mission statement, you have everything that you need to accomplish it, and you have your goal, when you think this war will be over with. We never had those orders when this war in Iraq started. Not from the onset and not now. And I'm sorry to say that. You see the surge right now that everybody's backing. One candidate is backing himself. And again, I am not drawing on political ties, but I just want to educate, because the media never plays it up on both sides. And I will get back to Barack and Hillary, but I want to address one person I respect hugely, and I want that on the record, John McCain and his service for this country and the sacrifices he made. But I encourage every single veteran out here, everyone that wants to stand on a stage, and I don't encourage it for any political party to use us as curtain dressing to get their votes. Look at the candidate before you step on the stage and see what their voting record is. Because if you look at John McCain, who again, I respect and I honor, but I am actually disgraced to think that a veteran who sits on the Armed Forces Committee, chairman, sits on the Intelligence Committee even before this war, on both seats, can sit here today and tell me, running for President of the United States, that he is ready from day one to assume the presidency of the United States and make sound judgment. Anybody who knows in the military, as we all know, those on the Intelligence and Armed Forces Committee see way more reports than anybody else in this country and anybody else in the Senate and on the congressional floor. And that was your sound judgment to send these men and women into harm's way? That was your judgment at the same time when this war was going on, to be one of 13 senators in 2003 to vote down new body armor, new tents, new adequate logistic equipment for our National Guard in 2003? This is your judgment? Or is it a political thing? Because you know what? Attached to that bill was one thing that said, you know what? No more corporate loopholes. Corporations had to pay. That's the only amendment that was on that bill. The only amendment. Let's go back to another one. Those requesting in 2007, when he backed the surge, when he said, yes, our troops are overtaxed, we're not taking care of our veterans, voted no to give our troops adequate rest in between being deployed. Voted no. That's not right. What we have done in this country, my personal opinion, again, my personal opinion, we have turned this into a political war. And those that are here from Vietnam, God bless them. Because you know what? I marched through the streets of Washington, D.C., and I carried that last unknown soldier from Vietnam. And I remember those Vietnam veterans standing next to me down in the Capitol when we brought that body out of the rotunda. And I remember an Army general who only had a good conduct medal and 1 star walk up to my first sergeant who served 2 tours in Korea and 2 tours in Vietnam. Both him and the full bird colonel, who was in charge of this company of Marines that was going to march and carry him to his final resting ground. Walk up and say, you know what, these men, 300 plus strong, God bless them, from Vietnam, who never lost a war. We've never lost a war in this country, mind you. Stood there and they said, you know what, they can't march in this formation. And my first sergeant turned to that 1-star general and said, why not? He goes, because we won't be able to keep in cadence. We won't be able to keep in step. And besides that, this isn't their day. This is about the armed forces here. My God, those are the men. Those are the women that sacrificed in Vietnam. This was their day. We were burying that war. We were burying that war on that day. Well, to make a long story short, my first sergeant, who in turn had to go get his the full bird who was going to lose his stripes, and this man, mind you, I might have some medals on my chest, none of which I am more proud of than the little dot you see on my chest which says, honorably discharged from the Marine Corps. The rest of this, you might be able to buy a beer at a tavern with. It doesn't matter to me. That little button does. And that's what mattered to that man, because you know what? He turned to that full bird, and that full bird said, you know what? Stack rifles. Stack rifles in the military means you put your rifles in a TP stack like this. We stacked all of our rifles as Marines. And that procession was 5 minutes stepping off, which nobody knew in this country with all the national media coverage. You never got to see that. And they held their ground and we held our ground. And that's why you saw every single 300 plus veteran from Vietnam marching in that march. Because we did not yield. We did not leave anyone behind, as we have done in this war. We have left our veterans, we have left those that are serving behind. Why? Because it doesn't affect us. Till it affects one of us in our household, till you have one over there serving, till you have one come back wounded, we do not address the issues. You can see people taking pictures here today from the media. I have spoke throughout this country, and I feel in my heart and in my soul, I have never disgraced this uniform. You think they would put a picture of one time of a veteran who believes in the motto, we leave no one behind, and address the issues and try to take care of homeless veterans? Pass 7 laws in the state of Illinois to take care of veterans serving and their families? Help come up with vet cash, a scratch-off lottery ticket to take care of the veteran budget for the state of Illinois? You think they would run one article on that? But no, what do you see when we gather as Americans to voice our opinion nowadays? You see that we are protesters. We are not protesters, ladies and gentlemen. We are Americans. Yes. We are Americans that are standing up for what they fought for and what they died for. Don't ever let anybody do a smoke and mirror on you and say that you are not here for a just cause. Because I'll tell you one thing, as one that sat over in the sand in that, and I saw it in my little AT&T tent when I got to go make a phone call, protest back home. And I thought to myself, even when I was leaving that reserve station in Chicago, and they hit my bus with balloons painted with red dye, blood for oil, baby killers. I thought to myself, how can you do this to me? You know, I stepped up, I was out of the Marine Corps, what's it all about? And I never could see the other side of the coin, until now. I am a father and a husband to 4 very special boys, ages 11 down to 6. And when this thing started eyeballing, and I started seeing through all the loopholes, the intel reports, the fabrications, I said to myself, I can't sit by. I can't look at my children in the morning, should this thing go down, and not know that I didn't step up. That I didn't do what I was taught in the Marine Corps, to be a leader, not to be a follower. And that's what you are here. You are all leaders. You're not followers. And God bless you for that. Because you know what? If we had more people that will remember what this country was founded on, democracy, and not forcing it on other countries that don't want it, clearly never did want it, Iraq, then maybe we would be better off as a country today. You know, you look at all the suffering in this nation, you look at the economy, but I assure you, and I beheave you, those of you that are strong faith-based, which I know we all are, we practice our faith, go back to your congregations, find out about those men and women that are serving over in the armed forces right now, even if they're not in Iraq and Afghanistan. Go over there and take them care packages. Go over there and maybe watch their kids for 2 hours so that they can get a little sanity back in their life. Maybe give them a free night out, dinner on the family, take a bowling or whatever. Do that. Instead of buying a Chinese-made magnet that goes on the back of your car that says support our troops, because you know what? That's a nice start, America, but you know what? Too many of you have stopped at that. Too many of you haven't stepped up and fought for it. And that's why I say today, God bless you for showing up today. And I'm very thankful as a veteran to think that, you know what, those that I left behind in that desert, they didn't die for nothing. They died for what we're here for today. And what we should always stand up for. We should not let a administration and a Congress on both sides of the aisle use terrorism as a fear tactic to go get us to war.